I'm Anna.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our
Today we're
channel.
watching Made in Abyss, Dawn of the Deep Soul. I believe that's the name. I don't want to read anything else going into it. Uh, Last episode of Made
Last
in
episode.
Abyss. Dude, I don't think I've ever felt the way that I did after an episode of anime before last episode.
The heaviness of like just not wanting to speak after watching that was very real.
I feel like looking back at it now, a week later, I'm able to look at it a little bit more objectively, and not fall and falter as much as I did in that category previously. I feel like my immersion of emotion into last episode is a peak example of the world and characters that they have managed to build in 13 episodes. I want to talk a bit about it with you. We haven't had the chance to really discuss it at all since then. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to just kind of start from the beginning of episode 13 and things that kind of stood out to me and are sticking with me going forward into not only the movie that we're watching today, but the series as a whole. I would love to start out with it's hard not to want to talk about Bondrewd first, to be honest, because he's one of my biggest takeaways.
That's
but
fair.
I want to talk about the way that episode 13 has managed to expand the world in the series of Made in Abyss. You know, we have speculated about what outside of the island is like and what the world's perception of the Abyss is and what the effects of the Abyss might be on the world, whether through physical means or societal means, and like how trading could go between countries of these, you know, relics. Having Nanachi be, and Mitty, of course, be exterior. You know, they didn't grow up in the orphanage that we knew, right?
They came from drastically different environments, I would say. It seems like Mitty came from a very snow-covered mountainous region, and then Mitty came from a very warm climate.
I think that I'm connecting right now with Nanachi more than personally any other character in the show right now. Her inquisitive nature and where she was in life and what she wanted to be, and that being taken advantage of without even knowing it, really has stuck with me since we watched last episode. And I think that part of me really would love to see Nanachi as a character be able to fulfill some of her desires before she left that place, and some of her questions that she has and excitement that she had. But the other part of me wonders if that's gone because of what has happened, and I hope it isn't. And I'm glad that Nanachi going forward is going to be with us, hopefully. But I don't know what it means for her character, but I have hope and desire for that to be met by
Agreed.
her.
I think that's a really great question to bring up in terms of Nanachi's mood and feelings going forward. Is Nanachi going to have that same excitement about exploring the Abyss further, things that Nanachi hasn't even maybe experienced or seen? Because Nanachi's been probably trying to stay close to home in order to be there for Mitty. So there is probably a lot that Nanachi has not seen and has not discovered. And is that desire that she had before her transformation and before her time here and the things that she's seen, is that excitement still there? We know for White Whistles that they have seen tons of trauma in continuously going down into the Abyss and losing friends, losing husbands, but they still want to go down.
Yeah.
They still love the excitement and the draw, the curiosity they have toward the Abyss is still so strong. And I do wonder if Nanachi still has that.
I'm hopeful. I don't know. Okay, can I talk about Bondrewd a little bit?
Yeah.
So, there are characters in fiction that exceed the means of a simple good or a bad, you know,
Mm-hmm.
a simple net good or a net bad. And obviously, we've seen a lot of gray area in this show, but I don't think we've seen the extent of what character writing can be until they're setting up Bondrewd here. And I don't want to I don't want to set my expectations too high, but I don't think that I was able to convey my how intrigued I am of the character of Bondrewd right now. I think that his intentions, his words, and his ways of application are something that are much more complicated than I could easily assume that they were. I think that it's very easy to look at the actions and how our emotions are tied to them and how we felt about the things happening in front of us uh, as a portrait of what Bondrewd is like as a character. But I think that that might be doing a disservice to the writing and the way that they're able to build up a character like him.
Mm-hmm.
I think that through the mystery of Liza, the idea that there are other white whistles down there that we haven't even met yet, I think that they've done a really good job at building a lot of mysticism uh, and mystery of certain characters,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that they gave us a little taste of it with Ozin and the idea of how that they would use the same relic that they used on Rico,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the curse repelling vessel. But I think with Bondrewd, they are really like pulling out their big guns, and in each line of dialogue that Bondrewd had last episode, whether it was the attempts that have been made so far before we got to see what happened to Mitty and Nanachi and how he had tried fusing or utilizing humans mixed with other non-human like beings or creatures, and how that didn't really show any success on his end, or what his motivation was of trying to repel the darkness away from the cavern that is his garden, right? But more than anything, the thing that really has me fascinated by his character, other than a great point that you pointed out last episode, which was his voice actor and how it seems like it's a polar opposite of the actions that he's,
Mm-hmm.
portraying, is his gratitude. The last scene that we had with Bondrewd when that light went out, and how he seems to view Nanachi, and not only Nanachi, but the situation that she was in with Mitty, is so fascinating. And that's at a point where I don't want to even make much speculation on what his intentions really are and what his feelings really are. But you can tell that it's not as simple as I wanted to torture these people or I wanted to do this for this reason. Like he wants to see Nanachi again and is happy for Nanachi.
Mm-hmm.
And at it's almost like you have to take a second glance at it and be like, wait, what? Did I mishear that? And no, you didn't. There's much intent behind it, but it's just the execution of that I am so fucking excited for. This feels like what, like, again, don't want to set myself up with over like hyped expectations, but it feels like it might be like one of my favorite villains in an anime that I've ever seen, because I feel like a lot of times they're very shallow in terms of how deep a villain will go and are trying to get that bit of the story dealt with so that they can move on to a different villain. But Bondrewd is setting themselves up to be a very complex character.
Bondrewd is the natural progression from meeting Ozin, specifically for one reason, and one reason alone for the narrative of this story, and that is children. Ozin had many lines about not ever lying or tricking children. And we get this really interesting conversation, before this sixth layer plunge, where they're like, "You tricked us." Mitty and Nanachi are like, "You tricked us," and he's like, "What? No, no, I didn't trick you."
Yeah.
Because to him, he didn't trick them. Yes, we can say he took advantage of the fact that they were naive and excited to be a part of this, and that they did not understand or read his mind on his intentions. But the things and words that he said to them were before bringing them here were that he was looking for children suitable for forging a new path for the next exploration era. That's what he's doing. He's honest about that part. Obviously, how people and the children interpreted what that would mean in terms of their like humanity and safety uh, was not the case, but it is a very interesting conversation to have in the progression from Ozen of being like, I would never lie or trick a child. And we saw Ozen do some kind of like messed up stuff in order to bring a response out from Rico and Reg.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have another character who's also doing messed up things to children, but not technically lying to them.
At least in his perspective, right?
In his perspective, right. It's so interesting, this progression that we're getting from Ozen. And Ozen even warns us about this character, that this character to her is the one to avoid.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why, right? I think you hit the nail on the head. It's that social aspect of it. And that is what can lead to a truly unhinged person. Somebody who truly believes in what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And not being like, oh, I'm being evil for the sake of it. Think about his conversation with his employee or subordinate and him bringing up the morality of things. And then like what you just said about his conversation with Nanachi and Midi and like how he's like, I never deceived you in that means, you know, the social aspect behind his belief is so terrifying.
The empathy level is out the window. He is severely focused and hyperfixated on what is technically a grand goal and great goal, which is to try to find a way to kind of rid the Cave Raider society from this losing of humanity 6th layer curse.
Yeah.
To try to find a way to continue exploring the depths of the abyss without losing yourself. He's trying to, which is very interesting because in a way he's trying to pave a path for the cave raiders, the curious explorers that come after him so that they can do it better and they can go further. And you know, in some ways that's like an awesome grand goal, but you're using children to experiment on. And so there's a lack of of humanity there. There is a lack of empathy there. And it's so interesting that we get this kind of contrast with the White Whistles. We get told they almost have transcended humanity. And then we get the idea of this curse in the 6th layer, the loss of humanity. And the people that lose their humanity in the 6th layer get killed and put down and put out of their misery. But the White Whistles almost just transcended into these other beings. There's this contrast created between them and the others, the ones that did not succeed and did not survive. And that's what happens here with Nanachi, is there becomes this contrast of her to the ones that didn't survive and lost their humanity when she did not. I think that I also wanted to point out something about the lights that you brought up. All the other lights are on.
Yeah.
That means that all the other children in the garden are still alive in there.
Does that pave way for a conclusion where the lights are out and reinforcement that this truly is saving people now that we had Rico's perspective of the situation?
I would love that. I mean, okay, so this at that point, you know, when I left this room after watching the episode, that is the scene that I could not stop thinking about once I realized that meant that all of this time, none of those other children had the same love that was being given to Midi by Nanachi. All of those children are still scared, stuck inside themselves in a garden.
Yep.
And I just could not, I was like, that is the most disturbing note to end this episode off on. And I think that it would be a really awesome goal for Nanachi to have, that now that she knows she did right by Midi, that even though she never befriended any of those other kids and never had the connection with any of those other kids, that once she has now forged these new connections with 2 other children, where before the only person that had ever approached her, who had ever hugged her because other kids said she smelled bad, was Midi, that now that she's able to branch out and have new friends and new support, that she is then going to want to reach out possibly and do the same for those kids.
Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about something that might be a little weird and might I might need your help like guiding
Okay.
through these thoughts, right? So in life, like you can do very surface level things, and most of the time these surface level things, once they are completed or you've done them, bring a equal exchange of feeling back to you. Maybe a surface level deed that you do or chore that you do would make you feel success in that
Mm-hmm.
type of way. And I want to talk about what that means in this world. We started out trying to find the most impressive relics that we can, and we would bask in that. We would steal them. We would keep them, you know? And there would be a level of happiness and fulfillment from that. And I'd say that it's very easy to say that the search for those relics, while dangerous most of the time, were worth the joy that they would bring. Now, when we get into black and white whistle territory, I think the idea of success becomes much more vague or specific, depending on
Mm-hmm.
which person you are in this show. Whether you're Rico trying to find your mother, whether you're Bondrewd trying to succeed in his experiments, whether you're Reg trying to help Rico out, whether you're any of the other people who have been down here. When you return, oftentimes you're like there was a parade thrown for the return of a white whistle,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just the whistle itself. And is that return, is that victory that you get of succeeding worth all of the things that it takes and it does to you going forward, all the repercussions that it leaves? We know that there is not a returning, and I don't know if that's just in a physical sense. You know,
I guess that would be then a question that is subjective to the person. I think some people would believe that life is short anyway, and if we're all returning to the abyss at death anyway, then I am going to try to live my life to the fullest and feed my passions and my desires, which the specific characters that are within the abyss, their desires are to be there and to explore it and to be able to send up messages or learn more so that the next cave raiders can come down and succeed and get even further than they did, to find relics that they can send up and maybe for a monetary value, maybe they're trying to get rich. But it seems like a lot of the white whistles specifically don't particularly care about the financial gain of being in the abyss. It's more that they are in this otherworldly place. They are incredibly strong and they are exploring and they are conquering and they've transcended those like human wants and desires such as like money.
yeah.
So
Hmm.
I think it would be incredibly subjective to the character of if it is worth it or not.
Early on in the series, you brought up you felt like there was a sense of life coming from the abyss like somewhat to death. Do you remember that?
Probably.
I'm trying to remember what you were saying back then because I'm trying to think of like what birth could be happening from these characters' deaths, not just in like, oh, Mitty just died, but
Mm-hmm.
Nanachi had a very specific mission and goal and has made the promise not to take her own life.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a new character or a new reason or purpose that is being created in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening in the abyss, and it's an extension of the abyss and what the abyss has caused. But I'm wondering if there's like any bit of like I don't like torturous dilation towards that rebirth. Like if there's any like lasting effects. We get a character like Rico being a corpse and being reanimated by the corpse repelling vessel. And you wonder if there's anything that stays once that rebirth happens.
So the only thing that I could attach myself to is the real world in terms of like when humans interact with environments that we are not a part of the ecosystem of. And sometimes what we leave behind can can change that in impact it in negative ways. Sometimes our just impact on the planet alone can impact those ecosystems without us even directly being there. We are indirectly impacting them. So I would imagine that there definitely has been some impact to the abyss in terms of the ecosystem, the populations of creatures and animals, even maybe how they choose to evolve now that they've been facing different types of predators and threats as cave raiders.
Yeah. Man, when you brought up the lights, and I thought of like the potential of what that could lead to, it's really mucky territory to try to tread through, because we're talking about it through like a moral sense of like what a typical main character protagonist would feel the need to do to save.
Which they could totally
this is different.
Just pass by that.
Yeah, like this has nothing to do with their goal. How much does something like this weigh in terms of that goal, and is it worth diverting and taking time to do something like morally good from one perspective versus like okay, I don't imagine them being like, this is the right thing to do, we should do it. It could totally happen, but part of me could equally imagine Nanachi being like, this is my mission right now, and then them giving importance to Nanachi's mission.
I find that narratively, I could not see them taking this quite a big shift and diversion from going reunion with Riko's mother. I couldn't imagine them doing that unless they somehow already ended up there because Bondrewd found them.
Yeah.
Because I believe that Nadachi is probably going to try to avoid Bondrewd and Bondrewd territory, and probably doesn't want Riko and Reg to be in his clutches either. I think that would probably be scary to her, especially when she sees that Reg has this like amazing power of the incinerator. She doesn't want Bondrewd to have that.
Yeah.
So I feel like the only way that they would divert in that direction would be narratively at a time where they're already there, or they've already maybe completed the Riko's mission.
Would Bondrewd want to use Reg? Like he's an untested.
If he doesn't know Reg, like how Reg came to be and how these relics came to be inside Reg, he'd probably want to do his own form of experiments on Reg. I would not. But the scary thing would be, like, put Riko in a chamber, put Reg in a chamber, put all the curse towards Reg, because it's not going to do anything to him. And so then maybe Riko will survive, too? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's an interesting conversation to have of, like, what would happen if Bondrewd found them. And we know that he's like, I'm going to see you again. I'd feel like to
see you again.
I think I can also understand that Nanachi might not be thinking about these other kids in that way. Because Nanachi was also a child at the time, and the person that she was close to, the only person in the world she probably was ever close to, is Mitty.
Yeah.
And now she has these two people she's forging friendships with in front of her, and she wants to almost repay them. She's excited to be around them. She's almost feeling life again. And so I feel like narratively, I couldn't necessarily see them immediately swinging in there,
busting through the doors, Superman style.
Blazing, you know,
Watch, we're gonna like start the movie. It's gonna be the first thing that happens.
I feel like whenever we guess or say like that's not gonna happen in this episode, it always like does.
I want this to be sad.
It's definitely gonna be sad.
That means it won't be. Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Sweet. Animation's already crazy.
I'm so excited. Amazing. 10 out of 10.
They have it easy. Team leader.
Team leader.
Wow.
Stop. We came to the grave.
I have chills.
What a good place to start the movie off at.
I wonder if the farther they go, the more Reg remembers because of seeing it before. Uh-oh. Cave Raiders.
So the hierarchy is Rico, Nanachi, Reg. That's one of the white whistles. Stop. No?
Umbra hands.
Bondrude!
Oh shit.
ところで、ここは地上60日以上前に禁域に指定されているはずだ。
Off limits.
Okay.
Why is it off limits?
What?
もう落とすな。
Don't drop it again.
ケムクジャラの友人たちにも伝えろ。
どうしてこいつに探りを入れてみる。待て、それは任せろ。ナナチの敵は僕の敵だ。行動を決めるのはお前が何をしているのか見てからだ。これ虫だ。葉っぱにそっくり。
Whoa. From Liza's drawings?
Is this why it's off limits right now?
Oh shit. Oh.
Implant their larva!
ごく最近見つかった。妖体が頭の
Get out of
中
there!
に入り、
Rico, get out of there!
すでにあの丘に巨大な巣が作られ、狩りを行う生態は花園全体で眠り、合図を待っている。
Oh.
自らを食わせ、生き餌が長持ちするようにして。
What the fuck?
この生物はクオン語りと呼ばれている。
Amaranthine
6
Deceptors.
層から来た、本来ここにいるはずのないも
They should
のだ。
not be here. Ooh.
あの方は今はいない。
Isn't currently
そうまた
present.
ぐやり方は不都合が出やすい。合図だ。
Oh shit.
急がねば。一帯の急所に燃焼剤を敷いた。
何をしている。なら僕なら。
君がどうすると。
Don't give him too much information. This music.
生命教は君たちの到着を心待ちにしている。
Eagerly awaiting your arrival.
人としてどうするべきだとか。
That's what a decent person would do.
僕はそういうのじゃなくていい。守るべきものを見失うな。こいつら穴という穴に。二人とも無事か。
This music's insane.
おめえすげえ虫汁ついてんぞ。
Her mom's favorite place.
お母さんの大好きなお花畑。
黎明教は君たちの到着を心待ちにしている。
Chills.
おいらだけじゃなく二人のことまで。
He knows.
この旅の果て
How much recon does he have, you know?
今はまだ。今分かっていることはたった一つ。この深淵の奥底で誰が待っているのかということ。最も暗い闇を越えなければ夜明けはやってこない
Dawn shall
のだか
not
ら。
come.
This page means a lot more to me than it ever did before.
You can see the ship. There's the field.
That looks like a clock.
Is this showing us the location for this movie on the map?
Wow.
Sea of Corpses.
That's a view.
オイラが来たのは深海5層の最下部。奴らが井戸フロントと呼んでいる場所だ。人が人のまま戻れる最終地点。ボンドルドの箱には
The final point.
その中に白笛がラストダイブに使う6層唯一の侵入口がある。お前たちをボンドルドがミスミス通すとは思えねえ。
Damn, I didn't realize there was only one entrance.
And people use Bondru to get down there.
なんだ。まあ、支え水が崩れたんだろう。道ができたな。気ぃつけて進むぞ。
How convenient. And we're kind of like holding Rico.
I love Rika's winter clothes.
ハマシラマ。
Hamashiramas.
I feel like that water's probably really cold.
Not for Reg. Whoa!
That definitely looks like something that would be at the bottom of
Do you
the
think
ocean.
it's blind because of how dark it is?
Mhm.
毒はないって。
God.
体積の倍はぬめりが出てるぞ。
There's probably like a whole Pinterest page for these recipes.
正直、勇気が。
Even Nanachi's like, ooh.
そんな声で泣くな。
Okay. How is it?
甘い。
Nice!
Okay, Nanachi, it's your turn.
Rico sashimi.
顎のとこにギュッてくる。見かけで判断できないね。
I mean, that is true.
Yo, this music is fucking insane.
まあ、リコ。オイラの作り方を教えて
Yes.
くれよ。
Cute. Everything feels really good.
オイラ勤勉だからな。お前と同レベルじゃ満足できねえのさ。
I love it.
アビスで食ったの。味のねえ固形食だけなんだよ。オイラがうめえもん作れるようになっときゃ。もしもミーティーに次会えた時にさ、食わせてやれるかもしれねえだろ。
What great
う
motivation.
めえもん一緒に食えないなんて申し訳なくてよ。
Greg's probably crying.
君はなんていいやつなの。離れろ。
Look at his face.
実際会えるなんて思っちゃいないさ。そんなこと言うな。そうだよ。諦めるのはまだ早いわよ。だってここはアビスだもの。
That's true.
ミーティーにもう一度会う方法だって、アビスの呪いがある理由も、慣れ果てや異物の秘密もきっとわかるはずよ。
Yes!
楽の底に答えはある。
Yes.
This song feels like such an evolution from
ど
what
んなとこかもわ
the
からね
version
え
we're
のに
normally used
す
to.
げえ自信だなお前。だってレグのふるさとだよ。きっと素敵なとこだよ。
Is that the first time she's heard that?
畜生、オイラがずっと望んでた。地の底の冒
That
険
I've
だ。
always wanted.
本当に楽しい。
Oh! This is everything I wanted.
Darn it.
We see this in the intro.
That's Bondrud's place?
God, why does it look so fucking cool? And why does it keep rotating?
ゆっくり回ってるよ。
And why?
I feel like it has to have a purpose.
力場を観察してただけだぜ。
Of course we're gonna have to bump into
回ってない部
Bondrud.
分があるだろ。
We have to.
船を使わなきゃ入り口はあそこしかねえ。こうも視界が開けてちゃ。ま、せめて警戒して進む。
I'm sure that's by design.
何千年も前に採取場だった遺跡を利用してるんだ。
Huh.
に塔があるだろ。あれが深海6層へのラストダイブ行きの装置だ。
Hmm.
嘘。みんな私と同じくらいの大きさじゃないの。ダメよ。強気に行かなきゃ。
A kid that survived, maybe? A kid that he
この先はどうすればいい？
didn't experiment on?
向こうから喋らせろ。情報は力だ。だから
Information is
どんな言葉が出て
power.
もビビるな。 聞き逃すな。
知ってるやつか。
New character.
あんたらがパパの客？
Papas.
恋じゃない。でも子供だけでよくここまで来れたわね。
Similar position to Merlk.
なあ、笹井水の結晶を渡ってきたの？
Information is power. Come on.
嘘でしょ。いつ落ちたっておかしくないじゃない。
Do you hear the sound?
だからな、私見たことない。
Oh, so cool.
どうやって来た？
Is this Bondrud's Morolk?
なあ、黙るなよ。
Oh,
私の帽子触っ
she's probably lonely.
二人とも助けてくれ。
Like, nope.
This is a test.
つらい。名前だ。私プルシカ。
Prushka.
Krishka.
私はリコ。
Uh-oh.
こっちのは
Uh-oh. What a fucking entrance.
Yeah, 皆さん、よく来てくれました。ナナチ。元気そうで何よりです。そうそう。先日はあの子の肉電球が消えていたのです。
Flash lamp.
ようやく解放されたのですね。
お前が二人をやったんだな。
Oh.
おいらたちは先に進みてんだ。通しちゃくれねえか。
ええ、構いませんとも。
The social aspect,
です
man.
が、ラストダイブに使う祭壇は白笛で起動するも
We have Liza's, right?
ご存知でしょうが、白笛は本人でしか使え
By
ない。
its
Oh,
original
fuck.
owner.
これは命を響く石、ユアワースという異
For
物の
burning
加工
stone.
たとえ
Mm.
親子であっても命の門が異なっては音色は出ません。
ハボさん言ってた。大勢さんも。
Then how?
私、行けばなんとかなるって思ってた。いろいろあったけど、私たちなら行ける
I
って。
thought we of all people could go. That idea that like they could.
あの子も白笛の子供。
Also a White Whistles kid. God.
よしよし、本当にいい
Do you
こと
think
です。
Liza was able to, like,
部屋を用意
I don't know,
して
change her whistle at all
少
before
し休まれて考えをめ
sending it up?
おいで。私がお掃除したのよ。
I hope it's not like the same room that Nanachi was in with Mitty.
リコ。
Mm.
トイレここ。
What do you think? Do you think Liza could have, like, changed it at all?
Maybe?
ここが部屋。このぐるぐるは左に回すのよ。
Mm.
入りな。
Okay.
Okay.
God, the same food.
おいらはいらんね。
Understandable. I like the little buckles in the backpack.
リコってどういう意味？お、名前の意味？何かな？
Does it mean something?
私のプルシカはね、夜明
The
けの
flower
花
of
って意味
dawn.
なんだ。パパがつけてくれたの。夜明けって見たことある？私ここで生まれたんだ。
Born here.
でも夜明けがどういうのか知ってるぞ。明かりがつくんだ。
Power through the darkest darkness.
すでに娘がいたのか。なら、2層の
This just really adds more complexity to trying to understand
Yeah, it
Bondrewd.
向か
does.
って落ちてくんだよ。情報は力だっつってんのに。しょうがねえな。お前のその模様、
以前よりなんだか。
減っ
Different.
てるんじゃないか。
Whoa.
こいつは空気を生む異物だが、使うたびに模様が減っていく。
Every time you use it.
異物で見たけどよ。
Is it like an energy
模様の
source?
意味は使用不
It's
能までの
diminishing.
回数だ。心当たりは一つしかねえ。
He only has so many
ある意味
uses?
堕落のルールを書き換えるほどの力だからな。
Rewrite the rules of the netherworld.
模様を見るに残りは3回。
Oh!
そんなんで、いざって時奴とやり合えるのか。
何か手を考えるさ。
The whole idea of we'll think of something.
なんとか、
Nanashi's not going to be able to sleep.
なんとかこいつらをこの先に行かせられねえか。
No way she's going to speak to Bondrewd.
Score is amazing.
大丈夫だよ。
And you just basically just see a line.
あなたたちはアビスの脅威が生んだ
Prodigy
奇
of
跡なんで
this.
す。
話があるんだ。
私もです。
Is there gonna be like a deal, like exchange Nanachi stays so they can
I-
go?
I don't want that to happen.
We just
Rico's
got
gone, or Reg's gone too.
二人しておトイレ行ったんだ。
Oh no.
the last time Rico went exploring at night, she saw some scary things. No, don't go up.
怒ってるのは
The strain.
I understand though. Every time I see a place with chains covering it, I want to go in.
嫌な予感がする。
It's like off key a little bit. Do you hear it?
危なくなったらすぐしゃがみ込む。
Already, the
まだ来ない
breathing.
怖い。クレになったものを見せられてもっと怖い。
Blood. Not just the strains, it's something. We hallucinating?
何が起こってるの？しゃがまなきゃ。でもあれ？どっちが地面？自分に触れない。血の形どうなってるの？顔ってもっと奥だっけ？奥ってどこだ？どこってどこだ？
Oh.
戻ってきたのか。顔を見せてみろ。バッサリやったな。あんた顔から転んだのよ。え？呪いは肌とかマスク。
Jesus.
But you're
That's
sensitive to
terrifying.
balance.
パーンして。砕けたのは子供の肌。また生えてくるぞ。よし。プルシカどこにい
Thank
たの？
God Prushka was
部屋
here.
にいたぞ。どこも鍵が。私だって部屋に鍵くらいかけるわから、いろいろあるのよ。実は。どうだった？確かに全部鍵がかかってる。そんで
Something to discuss, didn't want to be interrupted.
レグ、一緒に行こう。大丈夫。メニャ、起きて。
Mania.
What? What?
What?
パパが10歳の誕生日に
Please tell me it's not a child transformed into that thing.
Why'd you have to say that?
大丈夫なの？私たちとは違うものを感じ取ってるんだ。持ってない感覚は奪えないんだ。コツがあるんだ。パパに内緒で結構冒険してる。
Whoa.
あなたにとってお父さんってどんな？このパパだ。いっぱい考えてくれてる。
He's always thinking
お
of
前
me.
に娘がいるなんてよ。
Some of those
血
lights
は
are
薄
out.
いですが渡辺です。
It's
可
weak.
愛いでしょ。
この娘じゃねえのか。
家族とは血のつながりのみを言うのでしょう。私はそうは考えて血が出会い築き上げる
Then
ものな
why
んですよ。血はその助けに過ぎません。愛ですよ、ナナチ。
でけえもはけたもんだぜ。
悪態もユニークで可愛い。
そう、鼻の奥で匂い嗅いで。閉じたまま集中して。積んでいるメーニャが出してるうねうねが見
Whoa.
える。ゆっくりあれを目指すのよ。ゆっくりゆっくり進むんだ。その調子だ。
研究もいよいよ大詰め
The
です。
final stage.
ぜひまた私のところに見てもらいたいものもたくさんあります。
ああ、オンドルド。おいらな。おいら、お前のとこで働くよ。
喜ばしいナナチなのですよ。
条件が
なんでしょう。
手出さねえでくれねえか。あいつらが6層に行くのよ。
お、それは申し訳ないことをしました。は前例のない個体でしたゆえ、もうすでに
What?
目覚めた。楽も酷似している。航空時。
Similar.
Already I have.
動けない。
中を見たい。中を見たい。
No!
だ。金属では歯が立たない。
光を。
くそ。
The light.
何をしている。
取れた。
What the fuck?
あの流動体も十分量。次は腹が痛い。
No!
なんでこんな。
Blessed. They see Nanachi as
I'm sure
blessed.
they want to fucking get their hands on Nanachi.
And Prushka's gonna see this.
何してるの。その子たちはパパの客だって。ナナチ。早くここから。
The blood drops.
なんなのこれは。言いつけてやるんだから。
を誘わねば捕らえることも。
そしてパパの指示ひどいことするわけが。
今日にそう言われませんでしたか。こちらへ。こちらへ。さあ、こちらへ。さあ、こちらへ。さあ。
His color almost looks faded.
一度外に退避するぞ。つもりだったんだ。でも絵がまだ中に。必ず取り戻す。船のことは私からパパに言ってレグの腕を返してって言っとくからさ。こんなこと言えたきりじゃないんだけど、もし全部丸く収まったら
It's like Morlock.
引き止めてごめん。
It's like almost like a contrast of like kids with parental figures can still be just as like lonely or more lonely.
一緒に冒険に行きたいんだ。
What's the reason for Prushka?
I don't know.
What's Bondrud's
To
reason?
keep connecting us to who's it?
What's his reason for love?
パパ。聞いて、リコたちは。
苦しく正直一人前のレディーです。
Oh no, the final
自
stage?
身の目と耳で確かめてください。村ハンズは信頼できるものです。いる間、あなたを守ります。
やつをのさばらせちゃおけねえ。どうやたちを追ってからできるかはわからねえ。よし、よく耐えてたな。こけた部分の匂い。あの砂岩地帯。もしかして。
Following the footsteps.
ナナチ、そんなにすねないでください。地下から聞きましたよ。ませんが可愛く繕ってあげます。さあ、
Adorable He likes cute things. He likes children. It's creepy.
そいつは無理だ。返さね
Is this a trap?
Oh!
ナナチ、すぐに退治を。
え。穴ばかり覗いてねえで足元も見た方がいい。
5層亡骸の海の砂岩巣の近くは独特の匂い
A distinct odor near their nests.
ここに来るまでにゲロノロシを七尾の脳虫捕食者褐象頭のコロニーだ
We saw the depiction of the singer heads. Bondrud did not look bothered.
It was only annihilating his hands.
おい
His
ら
people.
5層の負荷は慣れっこだからな。合わせりゃ前後不覚にはならねえ。どうした。
痛みがいいはずの指で感じる。
原始痛ってやつか。
Phantom hands.
Or he's feeling what they're doing to it right now.
そのためにもぼんやりしてられねえ。あいつは怪物だ。
奴は何をした？
スパラグモス、ミーティの目を焼いたやつの武装だ。
That's a fucking weapon, huh?
Oh, he's just gonna come out alone.
Oh. God, I fucking hate how his character design's like the coolest thing I've ever
何
seen.
ですか？そんなところに
He's like so
I
unbothered.
know.
顔を見せてください。
もう意識の流れが読めるのか？
What the fuck?
やつはオイラ自身に細工をしてやがる。リコ、私どうしたら。
上にいたものですから刺激しないよう飼ってやっていたなんて素晴らしい。素晴らしい。
He's impressed.
ってわけかよ。次は余裕ぶって。
He didn't care about his losses. Oh! The animation!
男の子ですね。
まだまだだ。
気 きましたね。走行の隙間をねは
クオン語りの妖体だぜ。
Oh!
食い荒らされちまいな。
There's nothing good in your head anyway. Let him devour it.
やつは会話の内容までは知らなかった。続けて別の方法で畳みかける。
Prushka's watching this whole thing.
またとない好機だ。コートアビスの呪いを防ぐ装置だ。短期決戦で決めるぞ。
いや羨ましい。
スパラグモスがいくつあるか分から切る熱を水中で放てば空気に変わり大爆発が
Be a
起きる。
huge explosion.
なるほど、驚いた。考えたのですか。素晴らしい。
ならば奴にも食らわせてやれるはずだ。そんなに
Oh!
素晴らしい。
Oh!
一呼吸分だけ生かしてやる。その笛を吹かせて先へ。なんだ。
ななかったなレグ。嫌な役割を。
Did he know this was gonna happen?
返事してお願いパパ。ひどいよ。
なんだって言うんだ。なんだって。
お願い私を置いていかないで。
Oh! Was that not actually him? What the
What
fuck?
the fuck is happening?
パパですよ、プルシカ。どこにも行ったりなんかしません。愛があれば私は。
That's why he left one behind to be with. What the?
What?
そういえばまだ名乗っていませんでしたね。私はボンドルド。つか、黎明教と人は呼びます。君たちは本当に素晴らしい。プルシカを完成へ導く。
Guided her toward completion.
は愛をより深くします。
Trials make love grow stronger.
Jesus!
Inhuman.
He's
君たちもぜひ欲しい。3層の不可分のシェイカーです。内臓がひっくり返るだけです。
なぜ2人いる。
ハンズはすべて私ですよ。ナナチ、一緒に行きましょう。与えているわけではありません。
Is he putting Nanachi in there with
見えな
Prushka?
くなっていた効果、便宜上祝福と呼んでいます。深い精神性のつながりよってアビスの祝福のみをその身に受けたの成功例なのです。いいですよ、ナナチ。
He raised a child to love him.
プルシカが起きてしまう。これで引き上げさせていただきます。でも来てください。歓迎しますよ。赤をつけたものはすべて破棄してください。
夜明けが見たい。
He's like, is he turning her into something like Reg?
しょう。いつまでも一緒ですとも。
頑張れ。もう少しだリコ。リコはそうだな。子供キョーとかっこいいのがいい。じゃあ
Softening
リコメ
children.
ガネキョー。リコは白笛になってどうしたいんだ。白笛になってお母さんに会いたいと思う。本当にそうなのかなって。ないかもしれないって分かってからも余計にワクワクしちゃって。書いたのが本当は誰なのか、の呪いが何のためにあるのか、理由でどんな人が作ったのとか、チンまで大きくなるんだよ。チンチンって何？
Oh my
こんな
god.
感じのパイ見たり、ナナチ触ったりしてると、あ、パパ帽のことか。ずっと冒険がしていたいの。二人には内緒だよ。目標がないみたいに聞こえちゃうもん。リコはすごいな。とっくに本音が建前を超えてるじゃんか。会って終わりじゃないんだ。元気出てきたな。二人に会って話したい。レグって子はパパの特級異物オーバードで武装した最初の白笛になるんだ。で、リコ。
And he's arming himself with an outbid.
振り返っちゃダメ。奈落の闇がどんなに来る。
toward the dawn.
Very bright.
昼には枯れて落ちるん。あんたみたいな友達がずっと欲しくてさ。リコ、私一緒に冒険行きたいんだ。
動いちゃダメだ。内臓が傷ついてる。これからどうすれば。ナナチも思い詰めて。あの怪物はあの体に移ってからの動きはまるっきり手に負えなかったよ。
He was probably weaker when he separated into all those forms.
諦められない。異物目録をほぼ丸暗記してるんだ。何か倒す手がかりがあるかもしれない。
頭の部品が全部揃ってやがる。
ツアホリック。何？精神冷蔵機。意識を
He transfers the
意
soul.
識を増やす異物。でも自分の意識を混ぜたり5年前から消失扱いになってた特級異
What?
物。1級までなんだけどプルシカが言ってたのを思い。そいつがあの仮面の正体か。うん、部屋ぐらいあるお尻みたいな形。
What?
謎のにいたアンブラハンズが言ってたのを覚え。
あの方は今はいない。方は不都合が出やすい。
仮面なしでも意識は移せるけど狂っちまうってことなんじゃねえの。仮面はただのシンボルだ。新しきボンドルドとしての。あれが父親だとすり込むための。いかにもあの外道が好きそうじゃねえか。さすがナナチ、ブレインだね。だが調べてみる価値ありだ。 諦めねえうちにオイラが折れちまったら見合わせる面がねえ。デカ物をぶっ壊せれば一泡吹かせてやれるぜ。こんなところで終わらせたりしねえ。冒険を取り戻すんだ。
We'll take back our adventure.
服のエネルギーは電気だよ。オースで起きた時でもね、レグが記憶
Can you charge him?
そのせいか。もし私たちのことを忘れちゃったりしたら。奴とやり合うには仮想法は不可欠だって。混沌するまでの10
Crazy they took the other hand.
僕は君のことを忘れたりなんかしない。
町とは比較にならねえほど少ないが回復は見込める。レグは単独でオイラとリコは時間稼ぎだ。フロントの内側にあるから巻き込まれる心配はねえ。
太陽玉。
Whoa. Sound design's so cool underwater.
こいつら一体何匹いるん。
What?
すればいいんだ。
レグやったのか。
Do we actually get our memories back?
Koko. Doko.
どうした？
何の騒ぎだ。
ないから揺らして調べてるんだ。
Yeah, that's why, Optimist.
とにかくプルシカンとこに急ごう。
あいつプルシカといた。
メイニャ来てくれたの？メイニャ
Gonna lead to Prushka?
おい。
I feel so sick to my stomach.
I know, I really... This whole thing has just been so much.
合ってるぜ。加工場だよ。
The processing area.
加工？
人のな。足のつかない貧民窟や口減らしの子供たちだ。頭の中身と背骨の途中まで。いつ間の消費期限を生きられる分の腹渡を全部生きたまま削ぎ落としていくんだ。なる感覚器官は全て切除する。先に削いで小さくなったものを包んで骨代わりのこの箱に詰める。恍惚と恐怖を操作されて痛み続ける肉の呪いよけ。これが奴がカートリッジと呼ぶものの正体だ。
What the fuck?
奴が心底おっかなくてよ。こいつを作るの手伝ってたんだ。可愛いとふわついてきたこの手をよ。アビスへの憧れに満ちた目をよ。いてってうめく顎をよ。
She didn't run away right away. Oh,
取り除いて捨てていくんだ。何にも見えないふりしてよ。この手で何にも。だが何した
素晴らしい。
Now Rico's in there.
環境下でも君の吸収力や感受衰えませんでしたね。を受けるにふさわしい。もっと楽しいことが待っています。私のところで手伝ってください。
このイカレゲド祝福とやらを得るためだけに地下を詰めるつもりだな。
解放しますよ。ユアワースの原料を作りに来たと思っていたのです。
命を響く石、確かそれから削り出すって。
少しは教えているものと思っていました。
Make your own
あの
whistle.
方も人が悪い。ここは人間です。儀式を執り行う場所でもあとは誰でも良いわけではありません。手を捧げる確固たる意志がなければ本が適合しないのです。色は異物に隠された真の役割を悪いものではないでしょう。
って分かったわ。自分自身を笛の供物にしたのね。
ご明察ですね。
カートリッジにつながるやり方をいじってるうちにひらめいたんでしょう。
よりずっとこちら側なのかもしれませんね。
Like us.
まあわかるのよ。あなたはこれっぽっちも許せない自身を供物にできるならだってそうすればいいじゃないの。
だ頃の最初の私はこれです。神聖を生物ではないと判断されてしまいものになりません。心外ですよね。
だからってプルシカを攻撃的すぎたが来たぜ。
He's here now, but
Oh my god. What the fuck?
おやおやおやおや、しばらく見ないうちにヌルヌルしましたね。ご機嫌ですね。
なんだメイヤン、ナナチここお願い。
君は奇妙ですね。予備の電源までするより力を概念的に取り込んでいるのでしょう。よくぜひ見たい。ギャングウェイ。
What?
グモス。
Light. Oh!
なんと素晴らしいことをとても悔やんでいます。またぜひ欲しい。
What?
wants the body
レグしたというより
turned into something totally different.
あのボンドルドとタメ腫れてやる。
Even match.
もしやんちゃを見ていたいですが壊されては支障が出ます。彼です。
No!
おめえ何やってんだこんな時に。ソワホリック、そいつは絶対にオイラに見せるな。
Don't show it
ナ
to
ナチ
me.
双方力場がないでいる。規模がでかすぎて張り詰めてんだ。
木の光ですか。
あいつ基地ごとリコ逃げろ。オイラたちと逆方向にだ。まあおめえバカか。てめえの宝物忘れたれ。
His eyes are going back to normal. Immortal. She was wondering if she was immortal. Holy. That's so big. Rico had to be somewhere else. He probably just woke up, doesn't know what he did.
派手にやってくれたな。無事なのか。私は大丈夫。お前一体どうしたってんだ。
だが誰かがいる感覚があっ
Whole
た。
bunch of
A whole bunch of
someones.
体
someones.
が支配されて
言葉届いちゃってたか。
ふわふわが
Oh my god. It's the electricity.
俺これ耳に。やつはどうなったんだ。
どうぞこちらへ。
We need to kill the Zoaholic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is this his garden?
どこだここは。
We're in the garden. We're in the garden.
なんだこいつらは。
名前があるんですよ。レグ。君がそう選択したのではないの。足場を壊すのはいただけませんね。いささか危険すぎます。
What a shot.
君の光も私の傑作もに試せます。もっと見せて。
And they all feel the pain.
この慣れ果てたちも。とは。
This is not a good battleground. This is cruel.
What? Using his arm is like a force field around him.
の時より動きが良いではないですか。
思い出させてくれた。
His ability.
使い方とは。
How to use this body.
今止められなければ、僕たちの冒険はここで終わる。
始まりましたね。
レグ、
ナナチ。
お前はもう仮想法を打ったに最後の作戦を伝えるぜ。で呪いすら克服している。だが無尽蔵じゃ
It
ね
won't last forever.
逃げる限り奴は不死身だ。ボンは縦横無尽だ。方法はそうそう当たらねえ。戻ってくるんだ。
What about Reg's like 10 minutes after he uses it?
He's got to make it back before it's up.
レシーマが終わってしまいました。心優しい傑作の一つでした。目はお姫様だったんですよ。
What the fuck? Jesus!
What?
これが祝福なのですね。ターキリ、トーレイテア。
Prushka.
ああ、本当に素晴らしいプルシュカ。
言っている。あれがだってお前を思って泣いていたんだぞ。
おやおやおやおや、次の2000年へ踏み入る準備は整いました。
Stepping into the next
お訳を見届けましょう。
immortality.
夜明けだ。
To hell with your dawn.
愛娘の思いをあんな形にしたいい理由だ。
リコ、聞こえるか？リコ、
Did she hear that?
リコ。
プルシュカ。
痛い。痛い。
No.
こいつは難しいっすよ、旦那。が深すぎて自我まで持ってかれてますぜ。自分が誰かわかるかい？ハンブラハンズの娘とはいえ、このまま使うにはあまりにも酷っすよ。こいつは潰した方がいいんじゃ。
喜びしか知らぬ者から祈りは生まれません。を呪う苦しみの子ができないことがあります。君の名はプルシュパパです。私がパパですよ。いかがですか、グエイラ。
ずっとこんな調子っすわ。
今日は君のお友達を連れてきました。変化の子と呼んでいます。気に入りましたか？口に入れては。
お、出てきた。
好きなものができたのですね。君の世界は変わってゆきます。一歩一歩が君を作ってゆくでしょう。今日が君の誕生日、冒険の始まりです。
それ、うまいか？
食べれるよ。
そうかい。
待ってねえにゃ。そっちダメだって。よーし。
左の上腕、乳歯も全部砕けてるっすね。手はぐしゃらなくて済んでるけど、取ってこれるかどうか。
大丈夫です。もっと深いところから来ました。温かく見守りましょう。
髪の毛ぐるぐるになっちゃった。どうしてメーニャは平気だったんだ？調べてみなきゃ。メーニャの匂いを嗅ぐと見えないとこでモアモアが見えるんだ。
こんなに自由にさせて。
パパには内緒だぞ。
It's not a secret from Papa.
やれやれ。
見えちゃう目で見ててね。私の冒険。
How many layers of illusion?
Oh my god.
It has like two little handles, like the one on top of Bondred.
今から来るのは特別大事なお客様。そのお相手をお願いしたいのです。君と同じ白笛の娘なのですよ。きっとすぐお友達になれますよ。
パトラ、私というものがいるのに。地上ってとこからここまで来てるんだよね。本当の夜明けって。掃除なら私の方が。滝も上に向かって落ちてくんだよ。聞いたこともない生き物、大切な仲間、したことない顔、言ったことない言葉と、もっともっと一緒に。私の足、私のなんだろう、痛いのが増えてく。パパの痛みが流れ込んでくる。私の痛みが張っていく。パパには私がついているよ。辛いこともどんなに暗い夜も出ていけるよ。
この爪通りますね。君の急所すら人に見せていて大変助かります。
痛みすら偽物だと。
ええ、本当によくできています。の中も温かいですよ。
偽物ならまだ動ける。無意志は偽物じゃないぞ。
だからパパ、一つだけお願いしていいかな。リコ、今だ。私ね。
She had the other
リ
arm.
コたちと仲直りしてほしいんだ。喧嘩はダメだよ。冒険行くんだから。一緒に冒険に。くそ、くたばるんじゃねえぞ。ナナチとしても直してやる。ナナチ、
少し落ち着いた。限界だリコ。
驚きました。よもや切り落とした裏をすべて出し、基地を聞かせ。
減らず口もそこまでだ。つが出てこねえのを見るに使えるアンブラハンズがいねえんだろ。各残りの設備もツアホリックも処分してやる。増えすぎて殺しても殺しきれねえ。だが憧れはここで終わりだ。ざまあ見ろ。
とんでもございます。自らの道を選び進もうという切なる願いがそれに勝ったのです。されてしまったのは甚だ残念ですが、疲り合えたことはかけがえのない喜び。進むことこそ私の新たな憧れです。
何言っても無駄かよ。クソが。
He like takes
ったらありゃし
that
ね。
pleasure.
お前と差し違え。
よかった。そうならなくて本当に。さあ、顔を上げて。君たちの旅路に呪いと祝福を。
うるせえよ。
ああ、
子。この通り無事だ。それよりも鹿がね、こんなにあったかいのに鼓動もするのに波動が上向き苦しいの。ダメ、ブルシカがこぼれちゃう。
It's a whistle. The sovereign of children! It's Rico's whistle.
ブルシカ
No? Maybe?
そう感じるのなんでだろう。
なんだ、おい、どうした？
The first white whistle controlling an Albane.
マジなのか？被験者が望みでもしない限り、それでも他人を思いやれるやつなんて短い時間で。俺、むき出しじゃあんまりだろ。複雑な気分だろうけどよ。こいつがリコに間違いなくプルシカの意志だ。
That's why we saw the whole sequence with Rico
不格好
and
だけどよ
Prushka.
お前の白笛だ。
二人とも準備。
おめえ泣いたり
Still
食
has
ったり
tears
忙し
in her
い
eyes.
やつだな。
おい、ナナチ。
畜生め。あの仮面ぶっ壊しておきゃよかった。それなりに話はついた。オイラは隊長の意志を
I guess you
尊重
did come to an
This
understanding.
looks like a big version
私
of
た
Reg's
ちの冒険を
helmet.
始めるのよ。
Oh, it's about to begin? Now?
も及ばぬ深淵にその身を捧げ挑む
ブルシカ、一緒に行こう。
旅路の果終わるのか。それを
What
決
will
め
they
られ
come
る
to
のは
claim?
挑むもの。
決して戻れない最後の旅の始まりだ。
I was so scared.
I know that Nanachi couldn't go with.
どんなに暗くても大丈夫。とっても明るいから。進んで。
Oh, is that it?
Mhm.
Are we seeing it descend? To carry on is to carry a burden. Even if it's too strong, I won't turn back.
Okay, that was Made in Abyss, Dawn of the Deep Soul.
The movie.
Okay. I have a lot of similar feelings to last episode, you know? In terms of, pain.
Yeah.
And,
I would say it is a very similar feeling to how I felt when we ended last episode.
And kind of overwhelmed to a bit
Mhm.
of not being able to be concise. That being said, weirdly enough, I feel motivated in adventure by how they ended it. Like, weirdly enough, like because it's such a contrast.
How is that possible?
I don't
Like,
know,
how
but
is that possible? How does the show manage to show you the most horrifying and creepy things and then like hint at stuff that's like literally horrifying and then not like truly get into it at all, and you're just left this mess of a person being like, what am I witnessing? But then at the end of it you're like, wow, I can't wait to see the next thing. Like,
I genuinely don't know.
what is that? What is this formula? Like, I can't even, like, I need the recipe. Like, I don't understand.
Making something torturous is one thing, but to switch it on a dime, and it has to be due to it's like it's legitimately like they've prepared us for this.
Yeah.
Like, you know how, like, while in any story, especially this, as you get further along into it, you progress, you strengthen, you strengthen to build fight for future adversaries.
Mhm.
And it feels like as we've gone down into the abyss, we are like our tolerance that they are building us up with has grown, and they're built like they're just adding on to it. Like, okay, they're giving us a quarter this time, then next time they're giving us 50 cents.
Mhm.
They're not letting us stay at any
Mhm.
point. They are continuously opening new avenues and new doors of
Opening new wounds that are
wounds.
so unlike the others. Like, they showed us at the very beginning of this movie. I think that scene in the field was so purposeful, because what we get is almost a similar idea to like the corpse weepers and things like that. Creatures and deaths that and bodies and cave raider bodies that we're way past that.
Yep.
We're way past that being what will like make us feel how we feel right now after witnessing this movie.
And the fact that they left me with that feeling after last episode of the season, making me doubt, okay, you're doing a very risky choice in terms of writing. You are giving something so heavy into the story that you are potentially risking us never being able to meet that feat again of feeling. You risk not being able to write yourself a scenario that could affect an audience as much, if not more than that. And holy
I mean, like,
fuck.
come on, like, already, like, if you think of, like, horror movies, the choice for horror movies to make it scarier is just always children. I
Yeah.
feel like using children in a creepy or a horror sense is just a lot more powerful. It works wonders. But it also works wonders in terms of like a protective nature toward the innocent that a viewer would have. That seeing horrifying things happening to children is much harder to handle.
Yeah.
And what is this thing I feel that is like, wow, this stuff is sick and twisted, but I love Made in Abyss. Like, how are those things connected in my mind? Those feelings that are so discordant. I don't know.
You know, it's really special. Because the thing that I loved about this show, like 4 episodes in, was this massive world and potential of lore and specificity in terms of species or gadgets or relics or abilities, you know. But that was enough for me, to be completely honest, to be sold on the show.
Mm-hmm.
But god damn it, are they using it to really fucking tell a story.
I think how they get the viewer to, or the reader probably, because this was probably a manga, to continue to feel like they want to continue down in this adventure. I mean, we're in the same place that Riko, Reg, and Nanachi
Without
are.
a doubt.
That they are choosing to continue this adventure after they've literally, like Reg specifically, went through a whole ordeal in this movie that I don't even want to begin to get into some of that stuff. But to still have that desire to go even further and not just like stop in your tracks and go back to the surface where you could just like live in the orphanage and eat yummy food and be happy. That desire to keep pushing forward, how strong those aspirations are. Obviously so strong that even Bondrewd says it's now my aspiration because your aspiration surpasses my own. Your dedication
Literally.
to it. Like, Riko's so dedicated, and they use the fact that the main characters are these dedicated, curious children that it's like, okay, well, as long as Riko and Reg are okay and can continue on with their adventure, I feel a sense of almost like everything else is numb. Like all the things that happen around them, or, you know, around them, the horrifying things that happen around them, I'm like, well, Riko can still go on her adventure, and I'm rooting for her, and I want to watch it, and I want to see her reconnect with whoever's waiting for her at the bottom of the netherworld, you know? And so that's the driving force, is the desire to see these children and their aspiration through.
Okay. A couple things I want to say really quick. Number one, there's no way we're going to be able to touch on everything I think that at least me specifically loved, and I appreciated about this movie in this alone. So without a doubt, I'm requesting that we talk about it more before we start next season.
Definitely.
In the intro or whatever for next episode. Number 2, the choice to make this a movie. So what I'm going to assume is that season 2 picks up right after this. What I have seen done,
I hope so,
in an anime and story that I liked was in Dragon Ball. They released movies with huge plots where important things happened, and then made the choice after that movie was seen by everybody who wanted to watch it to retell the movie in the anime. Awful decision. I hate that decision. Mugen Train did something similar.
Yes.
I understand why, but I am going to assume Made in Abyss didn't do this, and I am fucking all for it, because the weight and heaviness and seriousness that it took to convey such a topic and storyline only, I think, or correctly, was chosen to do in a movie format.
Correct.
Not only can you
split up,
not exactly. You're not
There's
messing with pace.
You would have lost a momentum
By cliffhangers, ends of episodes, week-to-week releases. You're also giving it the budget and time it deserves in terms of animation, pacing. Oh my god, the score. It was non-stop, and I'm going to be listening for the rest of the night. I think
you had a great point during it. You were like, this almost feels like an elevated version of the score that, like, there was
several
similar,
pieces.
So similar, and probably the same thing, just almost like there was a flourish on it. And I was impressed by that. I also want to put on the table that not only was this like narratively just so right to be in a movie format and not broken up, I feel like that idea that Bondrewd almost kept coming back to life is why you couldn't break it up
completely
successfully
agree.
Into 20. Because if he kept coming back alive after every 23 minutes, I think the viewer would have been like, okay.
Yep, I completely agree with you.
So they had to do it in this fluid format where everything is just one package and he's the main villain of this package.
Yep, I 100% agree. I even brought this up to talk about the decision of the movie because you made me think of something. You said you can't even begin to unpack and manage what Reg went through this episode, this episode. And then I was like,
really long episode.
So my thought process was like, holy shit, you're right. But this wasn't just about Reg that went through things and developed and had so many moments. It was Prushka, right? And I was like, holy shit. It wasn't just about Prushka. It was about, like, look at where Rico ended off. Look at like her progress in this episode, in this movie. And then I was like, holy shit, it's not about Rico. Fucking Nanachi. Look at like, everything in the first season has made, like, it's perfect. It all reinforced and managed to tell an isolated, compact, compelling story, elevating each character we know in this series already. I am dumbfounded.
So these 3 characters we have in this movie alone, we have Nanachi, who's already traumatized by Bondrewd and this location that is here. And almost seemingly the one that Rico and Reg at a few points are almost having to use as comfort.
Yeah.
Nanachi is the comfort. Reg is the protector. But Reg at one point almost loses himself and has a lot of horrible things happen to him. Is being almost dismantled. The protection, and then the heart of the team, Rico. Her heart is being like wrung. Her heart is being destroyed. She's like tears in her eyes even as they're about to leave. Like, Rico is being destroyed emotionally.
The brains of the team, Nanachi, what she went through this episode. God, I'm so sorry. I'm so used to it. But Nanachi, she was being pushed and past her limits of just self-doubt, right? She was almost giving up. And then the image of Mitty, the thought of Mitty, looking at what Reg and Rico are doing and saying that if she's not able to stand up with them, how could she ever look Mitty in the eye again? Each one of them were put and it surpassed any limitation they previously had.
Why they needed to be put in this position to go forward in this world that has been created is because Rico needed to learn the truth. She has now learned how white whistles are created. She has learned things through meeting Bondrewd that shows her a glimpse of the abyss and the humanity within the abyss and the people that live in the abyss, almost maybe a glimpse of trying to understand who is her mother even? How does her mother feel? How did her mother get a white whistle? Who created this white whistle? Whose body was it? That these deeper it pushes Rico into a place of like, this is the final question of someone being like, are you sure you want to go in there?
Yep.
This is the final like showing of evidence of why maybe you shouldn't, or why it's so horrifying or so upsetting. Is it worth it? Is it worth it for you to be doing
It
this?
would not have felt like we were ready without this. It truthfully wouldn't. And I know that we had a lot of reveals that impact me saying that and making me feel that, but I don't think it would have felt as worth it in the slightest. If have you ever seen an animated movie or an anime movie, whatever, that has had this level of character development from pre-established characters going into a next arc? I know that's a very specific niche, but I kind of have a place in my head, fault of my own, through the animated movies that I've seen, that I have like an expectation of, okay, you have to end a movie that things can't be so significantly different due to what I have been accustomed to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is like a wake-up call to me.
Mm-hmm.
This was beautiful. And what we talked about in the discussion going into this, the idea of like, what would motivate these characters to go about doing something like going head to head with Bondrewd in this way? There isn't one reason that they did. There's hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it all the more compelling. Right off the bat, the whole line of dialogue that Reg had to Nanachi, saying that any enemy of yours is an enemy of mine, was the first step into this entire like stairway to reason and motivation and purpose behind the story that they were telling here.
Think about just what they're doing at the end. At the end, there had to be climax before that. There had to be this climactic action before you go through a door of no return.
Mm-hmm.
A door of no return. And this show is heavy. It's like, no, really, a door of no return.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is serious. And so there has to be heightened stakes right before you enter there. Heightened testing of wills and devotion and care for each other as this team, creating a solid team. We have Nanachi all through like the beginning and even some in the middle of the movie reminding Reg, like, I can't protect Rico by myself. The three of them need to be a solid team in order to continue through the door of no return.
Yep.
And this emotionally has now linked them all forever because they're now all traumatized together.
I love that we're not leaving anything behind either. You know, like whether it's Mitty, we are living with through Nanachi.
Prushka.
Whether it's Prushka, we are living through not only the White Whistle but Menya. It feels like we're wearing our scars rather than that we've healed from them.
You're right.
And
There's
I
really
fucking
no
love
regrets.
it.
There's no regrets being left.
No.
Because I forget who it was, Rico or Reg, that asked Nanachi at the end, like, are you sure about like leaving Bondrewd? And Nanachi was like, we reached an agreement, which is really interesting because at the very beginning of the movie, they're supposed to be having a talk and coming to an agreement. And obviously we see how that goes for the rest of the movie.
Yep. Okay, a couple things that I just have written down. I truthfully mean that I want to talk about. Like, this I think is going to stay with me for a while, just in the way that they wrote everything. Okay, sorry, I'm kind of like ramped up, you know. One of the things that I definitely wanted to talk about was the idea that Prushka was born here. Obviously, that only means so much now, knowing how this ended. But when I was thinking of the idea of somebody who's born in the abyss, I think of Rico. I think of the similarities, not just that they're both the child of a White Whistle, but of the circumstances of their birth, detailed throughout the process that we saw. Both of them had so many parallels. I know the idea of once you're down past a certain point in the abyss, there is no return to that sense, but part of me hoped that there was some unwritten rule that Prushka was going to be able to abide by that would have let her see that dawn. And obviously that's a moot point to a degree now, but I think that the idea of that is interesting enough to bring up.
Well, Prushka has become the reason that Rico can.
Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to point out, we had a line from Prushka that I was so doubting when she said it about how much she loves her father and that he's always thinking of her. And she was fucking right about that. That's for sure. That's for fucking sure.
So
Bondru's one of the craziest antagonists or villains that I've ever seen, and I wish I was in a school right now so I could write a paper about him, because he is so fucking fascinating in terms of his horror and decision making, and what a fucking execution of a villain. What an execution of an antagonist in one movie. Jesus.
When you zoom out and remember the other players that are within the Abyss currently, the other White Whistles, and you think about almost this lawlessness that's here, that they don't interrupt with each other's business. Like, I at first was
Good
like,
point.
they all have to come here. All of the other White Whistles have been here before. People visit Bondrewd.
Mm-hmm.
They probably have some extent of knowledge of, obviously, to warn about him,
Mm-hmm.
of things that he is up to or does. We have Ozen has Murlk, and Murlk was in the Abyss. I also remember Ozen used a line like, "I wish we had brought that child back instead." Don't know what that means, but
you wonder if, like, Saraho, the Mysterious, or Wakuna, the Chosen, like, it doesn't seem like there's a line that Bondrewd's curiosity wouldn't cross, but it makes you wonder if there are, like, figures that even he is reluctant to touch in the future. You know what I mean?
Honestly, he seems like this was where he met his match, that he didn't fear anything. Yeah. And then now he sees that there is something that has surpassed him, of his driving force. His reason to live is his goals and aspirations.
This is going to be so fucking weird. One of my favorite parts of this entire movie, the reveal that Reg was already being worked on. Like, the conversation with Nanachi.
And he was like, "Oh."
Yeah, like, I've
darn.
seen so many movies handle a surface level trope, like, okay, let's make an exchange here. Like, okay, we decide on it. Then the characters are led to go. They don't realize what they're getting themselves into. They come back to find Nanachi and save her, you know? Like, holy shit. The fact that they were taking his arm off.
And it wasn't even Bondrewd's, like, employees, like, they're separate people.
They're him.
They are him.
Jesus fuck, dude.
And the curiosity that they had as they were working on Reg, like, they were like, "Ooh, I want to do this, and I want to do this." Like, these separate consciousness, but they all have the same desire to almost, like, pick apart and discover and experiment, which this wild curiosity is obviously how Bondrewd survives.
And not just
that's
Bondrewd, all of the White Whistles to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
This and what's motivating Rico to do, who is, I guess, a White Whistle now, to do what she's doing. This curiosity is so fucking. I don't think media explores it enough. Truthfully, it's the same thing that I love about the show. It's the same thing that drove me to try to study archaeology. It's this you don't want to let your foot off the gas because of all of the mysteries that could be uncovered. But that's such a broad umbrella that people don't realize, that once you really, really focus in on one person and their own niche version of that, of how they...
of their, like, obsession and
hyperfixation.
Exactly,
of how they see that obsession and what that obsession is. That's what really drives them to being such a compelling antagonist or a person in the story. And it can make or break you so easily. Like, look, it's two sides of the same coin.
I think what they're showing us is that this type of person who is so fixated that they've almost cast off any other desires. Like they are everything's being poured into one location that all the humanity is then lost. And we get that idea, White Whistle's transcended humanity. They've left behind, cast off their human
Literally
feelings
now
and emotions.
transcending humanity
They
with
had to
yeah.
in order to focus all of their energy on their hyperfixation, on their obsession, on their curiosity, on their desire.
But with the origin of whistles, doesn't the thought of surpassing humanity completely take on it?
So it had to be born from someone that had the desire to be it for you?
A bit. It seems like how when we try to give a story a lot of praise, we think about like for Attack on Titan, for example, it's like you write a story backwards. Like you write a story, go back to the beginning, and then you have everything in mind going forward, and then sprinkle in things. I had no idea how much of that feeling I would have towards this show. Like the language that has been chosen, the ideas that have been given to us throughout the entire show, whether it's from Liza, whether it's from Uncle Habbo, whether it's from like Ozen or like anybody, has been like in this movie alone, so many different pieces of history and dialogue has been met and then added on to with so much knowledge that feels like it was so well thought about. I'm used to so many stories that are like making like decisions once they get to that point that could then influence another character arc or influence a motive pre-established in the story before. But everything seems so perfected, and I'm blown away, man. I
think it would have to be perfected in order to successfully deal with all of the kind of horrifying things that are happening in the show.
Yeah.
You have to have good writing to be able to successfully give this sort of content to a viewer and them not necessarily feel like they are just watching some cheap horror film or show.
I think that the inclusion of, first of all, action always feels like a little bit odd to me when it happens in Made in Abyss because we don't get it often.
This was a very action-packed movie.
I loved it. One of my favorite sequences in the entire movie was the idea of Bondrewd approaching Nanachi and Reg in that enclosure they were in. It was perfect on so many levels. Just wanted to gush about it for a second. The idea that, like, the chronological events of that, right? We think we have an upper hand, or that's what they're trying to portray to us. It leads to this horrifying creature that has been alluded to us by Liza, the Stinger Heads. They are breaking out, and all of these people around Bondrewd are dying, to which we think, because we are unaware of who they really are, what they really are.
Standing in the midst of it.
It's such a show of strength. The idea that he had already said the reason why I came there and talked to you about it was to warn you about this, but you were already privy to that information.
How marvelous.
It's not only a show of strength, but it's a show of intelligence of Bondrewd before the fact. It was so good.
I thought you were going to compliment Reg's choosing to utilize the walls and his arms when they were fighting in the garden, almost to also protect from smushing any of the the creatures, the people.
I loved all of the attacks that Bondrewd had and how many relics he really had in his possession and were using. The Spragamos was nuts. Zoaholic is a concept I never thought would be touched on in this. The idea of transferring consciousness. But I mean, if there was one character so far to do it, they literally built Bondrewd from the ground up to be that character. And you know what I had a thought of very early on in this movie? The idea of these insects that were able to feed parts of themselves to these corpses to make them live longer, to get more out of it. It reminds me so much of the approach that Bondrewd takes to these kids.
Oh, no, I thought you meant to Bondrewd to him creating himself as the White Whistle.
That too, though. And like it's like each thing have so many... Each detail in this movie has so many parallels to its own movie.
I think I've brought it up before, this like cycle of life as a theme of life and death, and the cycle and feeding the ecosystem. It's already so heavy in the show, but just the idea alone of like remembering how Bondrewd got his White Whistle to begin with should say all you need to say about how Bondrewd will handle things that he wants to do.
The truth of the cartridges, right?
Yeah.
Right when it hit the ground, we knew what it was,
Yep.
right?
Uh-huh.
But that's the point. And once we saw it through Rico's eyes, then Prushka about how they feel about Rico, the intention, I didn't know. I was going to say it was great either way, right after they had that sequence of Prushka's vision and idea of Rico. But to tie it into the process of making the White Whistle, it adds so much more context and meaning behind it happening in the moment. This feels like a movie that on the second, third, fourth watch through, you'd be able to appreciate it more and more and more.
But also, would you want to continue seeing all those horrible things again and again?
Kinda.
And understanding the better. Yeah, maybe, kinda.
The idea of pain being like...
He's imitating pain.
And like just so much focus on the creation of Reg, right? And like how he was so well made. Even the insides feel warm.
And we can't even leave behind. We can't end this discussion without mentioning the fact that Reg believes Reg didn't get any memories back necessarily, except one of like seeing someone else's face, of feeling like there are other someones within him.
Yeah. And the vision that he had looked like it was somebody who had the same markings or tape on their sides, the same helmet, longer hair.
And I wonder if someone else was the one that took control of him when he was like bouncing on the ceilings.
Before now, I never considered that Reg might have a mother, or Reg's a reincarnated person, or reincarnated several people, or an embodiment of the abyss itself.
We're getting that idea of moving consciousness within different people. And we've always felt that that Reg had human-like emotions, even if we're being told it's an imitation. We're now also getting this idea and concept of moving consciousness, but we're being told... We also know that the person that we're hearing this from, the imitating emotions, almost seemingly has no emotions and human feelings.
That was insane. Okay. Before we talk about it more, before next episode, I think that you and I both should like sit down and like even like have it up on screen and like think about some details and things to talk about, because a lot of times I don't even think about points until you bring it up, and then I appreciate whatever we're watching more.
And there was a lot more content here. This is an hour and 46 minutes.
Yeah. I'll never,
it's a lot of content,
for my entire life, forget the term flesh lamp.
Wait, dude, I wrote it down too.
You couldn't.
It was just too big of a phrase to not write down. Like, how can you hear the phrase flesh lamp and not be like, this I need to write down?
All right. For now, thank you guys for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.